RJ Davis is in a bit of a shooting slump right now. How can Coach Davis and the staff help their star navigate it?
This is Tyler Hansbrough, and you're listening to Locked On Tar Heels.
You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? It's Thursday, November 21st, 2024. Welcome into the Locked On Tar Heels podcast, the only daily North Carolina show out there. I'm your host, Isaac Schade, joined by our good buddy, Coach Bill Robinson, the head coach of the Milligan University Buffaloes basketball team, and a 2-decade veteran of Carolina Basketball School. That's North Carolina Basketball Camp in the summer. And man, he brings great insight to us about coaching and about the Tar Heels every single week. Folks, you're joining us at the place to get your Carolina content every single day. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thanks so much for making us your first listen or watch today. And this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get $150 in bonus bets if you win. Check it all out at FanDuel.com. Want to say a special shout out to all the everydayers joining us, all the members of the Locked On Tar Heels Discord and the Locked On Tar Heels Insiders. It's great to be together today. Let's get right into this thing. Coach RJ Davis, he's in a bit of a shooting slump right now, so we're going to talk about how the staff can help him navigate their way through it. Kind of the flip side, at least according to the last game, Cade Tyson seems like maybe he's working out of his shooting slump. So that's a different moment in coaching staff helping navigate. So we'll look at that as well. And also, this trip out to Hawaii is no joke. I just did it this summer, so I know the toll it takes on your body. So how do you make sure it's a great experience for the team, but also one in which you come home with a whole bunch of W's, because that's what we're looking for. By the way, folks, as we are just shy of a month away from Christmas, I want to remind you that Coach Robinson recently put out a book entitled Carolina Basketball School, detailing and chronicling all these great stories and experiences from all his years of working Carolina basketball camp, great drills and other things, and just all the behind the scenes. It's a great read and something that A, you should get for yourself, but also B, I know you're trying to figure out Christmas shopping right now. I'm in trouble because I owe my mother-in-law some Christmas ideas myself. Maybe, well, if I didn't already have a copy of the book, I would tell her to buy me one of those. So folks, make sure you check out Carolina Basketball School. You can get it on Amazon or email Coach directly and he can get it to you. All right, Coach, let's get right into our conversations today. RJ Davis, you know, it's funny. It's how different a year makes, because last year just starts off and it just kind of blows up. And it's like, yes, this is the RJ Davis we thought we would see, sans Caleb Love. And this year, Coach, off to quite a slow start. Let me give his numbers as they are right now, just from a shooting standpoint. 31.9% from the field. That's not a 3-point percentage, folks. And currently 20% from three. So, Coach, let's just start at the big picture of that. What do you say as a coach to your star when he's in a slump like this?
Early on, I don't say anything. I'm just going to let him play, and we're going to let him play out of it. There's no need to put more pressure on his shoulders. He feels enough of it as it is. Being the guy, being an All-American, and feeling the weight of the whole Tar Heel community on his shoulders. He doesn't need to be reminded about it every day. Simple things can be said. Hey, next one. When he misses an open look, hey, forget about next one. Next shot. That's a quick understanding of, hey, next one's going to go down. Don't think about the last one. Think about the next one. Maybe in practice, give him some more opportunities to run a set for him. Maybe run some 5-on-none, action where he's going to get shots where it's game-like shots, action shots coming off screens or in different actions, but it's going to be with no defense, so he's get a good look every time. Just little things like that in practice to try to get a shooter off. But you really just don't want to focus and put more pressure on that guy.
As you think about that, Coach, something that makes me think about is managing the balance of process versus result, right? And so as you look at that, how much more important is it to you, the process of making sure he's getting the looks you want him to get in the rhythm of the offense, make sure everything's mechanically correct, and given the track record of a player like this, the results are eventually going to come?
Yeah, he's putting in the work. I don't think there's anything mechanical about it. If anything, I think it's just more mental right now. And at that level, they may try to bring in somebody, a sports psychologist. I know a guy, and he's great. and deals exactly in this type of thing where somebody just working on confidence type stuff. And sometimes you're digging in and finding out, at least the guys at our level, they're dealing with a relationship breakup, or they're dealing with a class that they're really struggling with. Or maybe it's just something at home that you just don't know about. So sometimes just digging a little deeper into the psychology part of it, the mental aspect of it, you can find out that maybe there's something there that you can fix, or at least be able to bring out in the open so that they can talk about it, which will allow them to perform better.
Interesting. What's funny, Coach, as I look, I'm looking in real time as we talk here at RJ's stats through 3 games last year. He's hit the exact same amount of threes through 3 games. He hit 5 in the first 3 games last year, hit 5 in the first 3 games this year. The difference is the number of attempts. Last year, at this point, he was 5 of 18. And this year he's 5 of 25, right? So that's part of what makes it look so bad. But at this, I said he was off to a hot start last year. He was from 2. He was shooting very well from 2 3 games in last year. But where he's 20% from 3 right now, same juncture in the season last year, he was 27.8 from 3. And so, Coach, I think when we look at it in some of those terms, it might not be all that dissimilar, and I think gives you a lot of hope of what's ahead.
It's not, and he's taking tough shots too. I don't think they played Kansas in the first 3 games, or anybody close to a Kansas caliber team.
Yes, Radford, Lehigh, and UC Riverside.
There you go. So those types of teams are not going to have the rim protectors. They're not going to have the intensity of a game like a game in Fog Allen, and I think that has something to do with it too. But I do think it's more outside basketball stuff that's leaning on him. I had a former coach of mine, a buddy of mine, talked about senior players sometimes had a harder time performing because they're thinking about what's next, whether it's marriage or their graduation and job. In RJ's situation, maybe about thinking about the next level. That can be part of it too, just the mental aspect of this is it. This is your last chance. I think we all knew last year there's a really good chance that he would come back for that 5th year. And maybe just that's part of it too, that aspect of, hey, I've got to get all my ducks in a row thinking about what's happening, next year. And so maybe that's a conversation again a coach has and says, hey, man, just give me the next 5 months. Forget about the next 50 years. Just focus on today. Let's focus on tomorrow. But let's not think about the future right now. Let's just think about, the next game. Let's think about Hawaii and the trip and think about all the fun we're going to have. And let's just focus on that right now.
Coach, great segue, because that's literally where I wanted to ask you next. We're going to talk about Maui and Hawaii more in depth at the team level here in just a little bit. But how helpful do you think it's going to be for RJ? I want to talk about how helpful it is for the whole team to get away. Look at that later. But just right now for RJ specifically, how helpful is it to get off the mainland, to get away from it all, and just, man, be out in the ocean breeze and let the Maui vibes take over?
Yeah, even just traveling together, and of course we're traveling in a bus or a van. Just the time that you're away from everybody else's friends and family, it's just you. Now you're in a hotel, you're in an airport, you're all on the same plane. You're joking around about what you're watching or what you're listening to, and just that time together bonds you together. You obviously you're a long plane ride. You can't get away from anybody. You're probably sitting next to somebody on the team. So it just gives you that opportunity to hang out and to really dig in to get to know each other. We tried to get our guys to get their headphones out or their earplugs out and just talk to each other. We had one band trip this year. It was the best trip we had all year because you're sitting on top of each other, but you have to interact. You have to listen. One of our guys played DJ the whole time and played music, and somebody would just suggest a song and just play. And then you find out, oh, you like this music? I like this music. Or, hey, let's play this instead. And it just allows you to grow as a group because you have nothing but time and nothing but togetherness. So I'm hoping that just like the summer trip that they had to the beach, then life happens and classes happen and you kind of get away from that. Now you're kind of forced back together again. And I think it's perfect timing for the Heels.
Last RJ question, Coach, and then we'll move on. One of the commentators during the American game mentioned he wondered if part of RJ's slow start, specifically from 3, is him potentially getting used to receiving the ball in a different way, which might be one of the ramifications of Carolina being a differently shaped team from a personnel standpoint, and then what that means for play style standpoint. Whereas the suggestion was, in an era where you are used to maybe a big kicking it out from a repost or something like that, and that's where you're getting the majority of your 3-point looks, to now it's more perimeter oriented, where it's I would say a lot more horizontal receiving, rather than north and south receiving. Do you think there's anything to that in terms of like shot readiness or shot preparation and how that might change thing? I'm a little, honestly, coach, I'm a little skeptical that has an effect, but I did want to ask you about it.
RJ doesn't care where it's coming from.
Thank you. Okay, thank you.
It's him in a spot where he can catch it. I liken it to a shortstop. If you're getting a ground ball or you're getting a toss from the second baseman, to turn a double play, you're not caring where that ball's coming from. You're thinking about what you're going to do as you're catching it. That's all RJ's thinking about. He's thinking about what's my decision making when I get it, whether it's a pitch, ahead in transition, whether it's a post touch back out, whether it's just the ball being swung, or maybe it's even a dribble handoff where he's grabbing it and going. He doesn't care how he's getting it. He just wants to have the ball in his hands. We want him to have the ball in his hands. We want him to make those decisions, and it doesn't matter where he's getting it from. He's used to just playing basketball, and it doesn't really care where it comes from. He just wants to make plays.
And he's still hitting 90% of his free throws, coach. So I think we're just fine. Thank you very much. Speaking of just fine, Cade Tyson is hopefully breaking out of his slump now. That's great news for both he and the Tar Heels. So what's next for him on his journey this season? And we'll have that conversation right after I tell you about skylight frames. Hey, do you struggle finding the perfect gift during the holidays? Well, maybe like you're just tired of wasting money on getting just useless clutter that no one really uses or cares about. Well, I want to tell you about something that my family recently bought for my in-laws a couple Christmases ago, and that I thought was a great gift and that we get to continue to participate in all the time. And it's called Skylight Frame. It's a touchscreen digital photo frame your whole family will love. You can upload thousands of photos with your phone and watch them appear in seconds right there on the frame. It's got seamless sharing where you can invite friends, you can invite family, whomever, to just easily share photos via their free mobile app or email, whatever it is. There's no account, no subscription required. You can just add the photos straight from your phone, upload them like you would to social media or anything, and boom, they pop up from anywhere around the country or around the world. It's the fastest, easiest way to keep your loved ones in the loop all the time and help them feel much more connected to you. Also, I love this little feature that it has. It's gift mode, where you can go ahead and pre-upload a whole bunch of pictures to it before you even unbox it, so that when they pull it out, it's like, boom, all these sentimental photos right there, making this gift even more meaningful. And right now, as a special limited time offer for our listeners, you can get $20 off your purchase of a skylight frame when you go to skylightframe.com/college. Again, go to skylightframe.com/college to get $20 off your purchase right now. This episode is also brought to you by our good friends at FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5, and if you win, you get $150 in bonus bets. Wow. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL right there in one place. So maybe you get a hunch. It's the middle of the game and you're like, I think this is going to happen. Well, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more right there on the same page where you place your bets. We're going to be talking about Maui here in a little bit. Here's the Maui odds right now for the top 4 teams. UConn leads the way at +170, then Auburn +310, followed by the Tar Heels +400, and then Iowa State at +430. Go check it all out at FanDuel.com to play today. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Coach, let's move from talking about one Carolina shooter to another, both of whom we expect to be Carolina's most prolific and proficient three-point shooters this season, RJ Davis and Cade Tyson. Cade had started off the season 0 of 3 from 3 in the first 2 games of the season. Perhaps most troubling is not the lack of makes, but the lack of attempts, right? You want to see this guy being able to get him up. Thankfully, against American on Friday, he was able to connect on his first 3 threes of the season, 3 for 7 now, or 3 for 7 in that game, 3 for 10 on the season. And so, Coach, hopefully this means that Cade Tyson is breaking out a little bit. We just talked about a shooter who's in a slump in RJ Davis. How do you handle one who may be starting to emerge from a slump? Is there anything you would do differently than what we talked about with RJ?
Yeah, I think the first thing you do is just get him more minutes. You not necessarily have to push him to make more shots or take more shots. You're not thinking, you may think that, but you don't want it to portray that message necessarily. But you want him to, hey, let's get him in maybe a little bit earlier. Let's get him a touch. Once he hits one, I think you need to have a favorite set or maybe a couple of different sets that you can get him a look. Once he hits one, hey, let's run something. Let's get him another look. right away. If he hits one, great. Let's run him another one. But once you get a little bit more confidence in him, when he starts seeing that confidence, I think his playing time definitely needs to go up, and you need to have a couple sets ready just for him.
And we saw that against American, played the most minutes he had played of the season. Which coach, obviously against Kansas, he got in for those 63 seconds and then came right back out. I know that's got to be frustrating to him, but also it's probably I don't want to speculate. I want to hear your thoughts on it. Why would you imagine that happened in that scenario, and then against American, man, really has an opportunity, particularly in that second half, to shine?
Yeah, I think part of it's trust and matchups and things like that. So when it comes to substitution patterns, and I think in the Kansas game, maybe they're looking for him to get in and hey, let's get him a touch. Let's see if we can get him one early. If he makes it, then he'll play a little bit more. If not, probably a hard time finding somebody maybe for him to guard in that Kansas game, just with the athleticism and their guards and the speed and the length that they had. Obviously, in American, he's going to be able to find somebody that he can guard. He's not a bad defender. I know that might be shocking for some people. He's more than just a shooter. Hubert's alluded to that. But there are games where he has better matchups to guard than in others. And sometimes it's going to be matchup driven minutes, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
They're going to determine who he can guard when that person comes in the game. He can go in and match up and get his looks. If that person subs out, he'll sub out as well. So it really just depends on performance based, obviously. And then with matchups, his minutes will go up and down accordingly.
How do you navigate that though, coach, with again, as we said earlier, we project him to be one of Carolina's two best and most prolific 3-point shooters this season. So what's that balance of man, we need that perimeter stretching shot maker in there versus he's getting picked on a little bit defensively. How do you navigate that with your substitution patterns?
Yeah, sometimes it's game even situational where what is that team playing? Is it zone? Is it man? Can he get some good looks? Even if he might be a liability more at the defensive end, we still need him in the game. We still need him to make shots. We have a similar guard right now in our program. He's our best shooter by far. Had an injury last year. He's back. He's probably not 100%. He's trying to convince me that he is. I know he's not. We just need him in the game. Need him to get in and get shots. And we're not going to necessarily run him something right away. But if we can find something in transition, or if he gets a good look, he makes one, he's going to play regardless of what, and maybe we adjust our defense. And I know Hubert won't do that necessarily right now, but it might be the type of thing in the future where if Cade hits a couple and he doesn't have a good matchup, maybe we do play a little bit of zone. And I know we've talked about that. We haven't seen it yet.
Yep.
I still think it's coming. I do. I still think there's going to be a situation where all of a sudden, I think he's going to shock the world by going zone one day. But I think Cade will be on the floor when that happens.
Yeah. Coach, another wrinkle in the playing pattern that just occurs to me as you're talking about that is, how do you help him stay away from the mindset of all right, I'm going to take my first one. If it goes in, I'm probably going to get minutes today. If I miss it, I might be relegated to the bench. How do you help him stay away from that mindset?
Yeah, we just talk about decision making. Don't rush that first one. It doesn't have to be. And if you get a good look, be aggressive, knock it down, but don't be out there thinking, hey, I got to get my shots as quickly as possible because I don't know how long I'm going to be out here. That's not a good team set. That's not a good mindset for anybody. And it really puts a lot more pressure on that shooter to think I got to make that first one. So we want to see guys make great decisions, whether it's taking that shot or making an extra pass or having to put the ball on the floor a little bit. He can do that too. We don't want him maybe taking 6 or 8 dribbles every time he touches it, but to grab it, ball fake, take a dribble and attack the rim, that's part of his game too.
It's a very big part of his game. I've said this ad nauseum this offseason, but each of his 2 seasons at Belmont had more 2-point attempts than 3-point attempts. And hopefully that can be an encouragement that he is not just a 3-point shooter. He's a guy that can also get inside the lane. And as we've seen, can help with rebounding and doing some other things. We saw last Friday night against American. He doesn't mind getting on the floor and getting dirty, man. That's what Hubert Davis, I think, loves more than anything else, right? I know there's no dirt you get on your uniform in basketball, but if there's the equivalent of that, he likes it when Kade Tyson's doing it. Coach, last thing about Cade, and then we'll move on. As Carolina plays Hawaii tomorrow night / very early Saturday morning, and then as they move over to the island of Maui for the Invitational, What is it that you would like to see from Cade Tyson specifically, either from what the coaching staff is doing for him or what he's doing on the court?
Yeah, I'd just like to see me more aggressive when he touches it. Obviously, the scouting report's going to be run him off the line. Don't let him get a good look. So that's what he. And again, it doesn't necessarily have to be scoring. I'd love to be able to see him maybe draw a defender, make draw two with a little bit of a ball fake and a dribble and attract that help, and then make that extra pass, and just be able to help people make other people better. It doesn't have to be necessarily him scoring every time. But if he can just allow that team to flow and that ball, every time the ball comes to him, it doesn't necessarily stick. It doesn't necessarily have to be a shot, but he just makes great decisions offensively. And I'd love to see him crash the glass. And at the offensive end, go get it. He's big, he's long, and his matchups more times than not are going to be guys that are smaller than him. Yeah, so go get those rebounds, go get them, and get another possession or two for the Heels.
All right. I love it. We'll be watching for that tomorrow night or Saturday morning, whatever you're doing. And then obviously next week as we get ready for some turkey later in the week. Okay, Coach, speaking of this Hawaii trip, man, it is long and it is exhausting, but there are so many great things to experience, but it's also a business trip. How do you navigate that well? How do you help your players balance those two dichotomies or that dichotomy? We're going to get to that conversation and more in just a second. Right after I tell you about Prize Picks, which is the best place to get real money sports action with over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to everyone. Literally all you do. I love the simplicity of this. They give you a player and a certain stat, like let's say Cade Tyson, we just talked about. Cade Tyson, 2.5 made threes, and you just pick more or less. Do you think he's going to make 3 or more, or do you think he's going to make 2 or less? You just pick that. And that's all you got to do. And you do that for 2 players, and it gives you a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. So run your game all season long on Prize Picks. And I'm also grateful that this is a thing that puts their members first. All their withdrawals, they're safe, they're secure, and they're fast. When your picks hit, you can get your winnings in as quickly as 15 minutes. So sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even have to win. It's a guaranteed bonus. Wow. What am I looking at this weekend? Well, I'll tell you what, I haven't seen the line on Omarion Hampton's rushing yards, but whatever that line is, I'm definitely hitting more at Prize Picks because he's going to smash it. So go download their app today and use code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. Coach, this is a long trip from the Eastern time zone out to the Hawaiian time zone. And thankfully, and I'll talk about this actually on tomorrow's show as we get ready for the Hawaii game, but I'm so grateful for this Hawaii game to kind of get acclimated, in body and play and other things before the actual Maui Invitational. But just thinking about it at a big picture level, like you as a coach, your coaching staff, everybody that's involved, how on earth do you handle the logistics for a trip of a beast of this magnitude?
Yeah, we got to go a couple years ago, take the team out and play in a tournament, and it's a wonderful, exciting trip. It's nice to be able to pack a bag and not have to pack sweats and jackets and gloves and hats. You know that you're going someplace that's just going to be absolutely gorgeous. But the first thing we want to do is get them off the plane, get them settled in wherever you're staying, but then get into a practice arena, get into a gym somewhere where you just get some shots up. We were able to go to a local high school and just get an hour shooting around. The kids were there. We got to interact with the kids, get to tell them where we were from. They laughed hearing kids from the accents that we had from our New Zealand kids and from East Tennessee kids in Hawaii. It was a lot of fun. But it was just getting them out and back on their legs and running up and down a little bit and trying to get over that long flight.
Yeah, it's a doozy. Speaking of gloves, I'm looking at the temperatures for next week in Maui. 78 is a high on Monday, 79 Tuesday, 78 on Wednesday. So that's like golden and glorious. I'm so very jealous of the Tar Heels. Coach, I mentioned it in our tease, but obviously this is a place that is one of the most beautiful places on our entire planet, but it's also a business trip. So how do you were talking about this with RJ earlier and like allowing the guys opportunities to experience God's glorious nature, right? Like the mountains, the beach. Hawaii is unlike anything I've seen. So how do you balance that, Coach Rob?
Yeah, I think there's always activities and you have to be able to plan them ahead of time, but you want them to experience the Hawaiian life. You want to experience, a luau. We got our guys to Pearl Harbor, which I thought was really, really cool. And again, doing them with little short bits. You don't need to go to Pearl Harbor for an entire day, but to go there and be there and get to experience and talk about it with these college kids. A lot of the men and women that were there at that time are their age or younger than some of these guys are now. And to be able to see that and feel that, our guys need to know that. They need to experience and get to see what the history of our country is all about. But to be able to have fun at a luau, to go to the beach and just sit there and watch the sunset, you got to find out times to be able to put that in along with the business side of it. So we were fortunate enough to be able to play 2 games and then had a day. And I'm hoping that that's kind of what Carolina will do. Of course, they have a gap between the Hawaii game
That's right.
and they've got some time in there. But hey, let's go spend 2 hours in practice. Let's go really get after it. Then let's get showers, get a nice meal, and go watch the sunset. There's a lot of things that they can do to still be able to be business, but still be able to educate. And some of these guys will never get back to Hawaii, maybe in their lifetime. This is a once in a lifetime type trip. So let's make it the very best, but let's balance between work and pleasure.
Yeah, that's a good point, Coach. After their final game Wednesday, whatever time that is, depending on wins and losses, they don't play again until the next Wednesday when they host Alabama. So definitely some nice buffer time on the back end there. But, Coach, while there's buffer time on the back end, it is chock-a-block full of basketball while they're on the front end. In addition to Maui, there's obviously the Hawaii game tomorrow night, meaning it's 4 games in 6 days. Coach, I mean, how on earth do you go about managing legs and recovery and everything you got to do to keep your guys healthy to play 4 games in 6 days?
Yeah, one of the things that they're not going to do is hike Diamond Head. They're not going to do those type of things. From a coaching perspective, those scouting reports are probably already done. Obviously, the Hawaii one's done, but when you got a staff, I have 1 full-time assistant. They have a lot more than that. So you split that up between everybody, even have scouting reports for teams you might play. You're not really sure they're going to play. But all that's done. And then when a game ends and you know exactly who you're going to play, that scouting report's already done, and now we can move forward. But that's what's great about having an awesome staff, and they do. They've got a great staff to prepare them. But those are the type of things where you're prepared ahead of time. The guys have confidence knowing that you're prepared for anybody, any day, anytime. And then making sure they get their rest and trying to get them on that Pacific time as quickly as possible, the Hawaiian time as quickly as possible, because it is really hard to get that adjustment made. And I think it is super important. And we've talked about this off camera, but to have that gap between their last game in Hawaii and their next game, I think it's going to be much harder to acclimate once they get back home.
Yeah, man. Yes, indeed. Coach, last question for today. At a chemistry level, how does a trip like this galvanize a team?
No, I think it's huge because you're spending every meal, every practice. I mean, every time you're together, there's no other distractions. There's no other people there. It's just you. So you're spending so much time together. And I hope they take some team time if they have a meal in the hotel. Of course, it's different than it is with traveling with us. We'd give the guys money and say, hey, just go into town, grab a bite somewhere. They can't do that. They can't really. Well, I mean, they can walk around a little bit. The first time I met RJ was on Bourbon Street, at the Final Four, just walking around. They can walk around a little bit, but most of the time, those meals are going to be in the hotel, in a confined space, and they're going to spend a lot more time watching film together, being in the hotel together, finding activities, even something like a luau, just really cool experience that's where the cameras come out and taking pictures for social media and all those little things like that. But all those times together just help you become stronger as a program.
So good. Coach, thank you for all that insight today. And speaking of RJ, that reminds me one angle we didn't really touch on today, but I think is certainly noteworthy. And I'll just see if you have any thoughts on this as we get out. Is as we think about getting out of these shooting slumps, just the sheer amount of shooters that are on this coaching staff, from Coach Davis himself to Marcus Page to Coach Lebo. These are all dudes that have been and go through slumps all the time. And so obviously they are guys who have been through those moments in those trenches. And so they have that firsthand knowledge of how to navigate it.
Yeah, I got to see Jeff Lebo as a high school kid when I was at camp in Pennsylvania as a rising sophomore. He was his dad was the teacher, the guest speaker, and Jeff actually went through a shooting exhibition. I think he missed 2 shots in 15 minutes. Just unbelievable pure shooter. And of course, having Marcus there, I think, is huge to have somebody, he can relate to, being younger, and somebody who's been there and done that. And I think we all know Marcus is a phenomenal human being first, but he's going to be a great coach. And to have somebody like that in his ear all the time, I think, and somebody who can just focus on him. Marcus doesn't have to worry about the post play, and he doesn't have to worry about all these other things. He can just focus on his guy. And I think that's a great, huge advantage for RJ right now.
Well, Coach, it's been a great show as always. Man, really excited for the Tar Heels and what they're going to do in Hawaii. Obviously, we're going to get ready for that later in the week. As a reminder, folks, I'm going to be gone over the weekend, so we will not recap the Hawaii game on Monday's show. I'm going to have to pre-record that, so we won't know the Hawaii result or Carolina at Boston College. But Tuesday morning, after the first game of Maui, late Monday night against Dayton, what we're going to do is, since that game is so late, Tuesday's show is just going to be a live show Tuesday morning. So would love for you to come hop in with me as we do that. If you have not yet subscribed to the show on video and audio, man, make sure you do that. Check it out so you can watch on YouTube or listen on your favorite podcast platform. As a reminder, if you haven't yet bought Coach's book, Carolina Basketball School, man, you need that book on your shelf as a Tar Heel fan, or even if you're hate watching this show and you just love basketball, man, it's a great way to be able to learn more about the history of Carolina basketball campus. Great stuff. If you've not joined the Locked On Tar Heels Discord, we'd love to have you there, man. It's a great place to be. It's free. The link for that's in the show notes. We're talking Tar Heels all the time, and just live too, man. It's a great place to be. If you want to go even deeper with the show, join the Locked On Tar Heels Insiders, where you get direct access to me and you get all sorts of other perks as well. And it's a great way to help support our show. Folks, as always, it's a great day to be a Tar Heel. We'll talk again tomorrow to get ready for Hawaii specifically. But until then, peace.